municipal job, you have to carry out the laws of the country, the laws of the land. Well, the law of the land is that uh, gay couples now have the right to legally marry.
Yeah. And
And
also,
if this clerk doesn't want to do it, then she should resign her job.
yeah, they also, remember the baker that refused to bake the wedding cake for a gay couple. Well, he lost in the Supreme Court or whatever court that he tried to fight it, and they said he has to do it.
Well, the only thing that that's going to do is it'll do one of two things. Either it'll galvanize support for that business's stand one way or the other, depending upon the support of the locals, or that business will be boycotted. You know, people. I mean, and you don't have to be gay in order to believe that. You know, citizens in this country who are gay, don't have the right to marry. I mean, they do have the right to marry.
The bottom line is, whoever you are, you have the right to do what you think is right, and you really don't have the right to stop other people from doing it. If you're gay and you want to get married, that's fine. If you want to,
Well, speaking about gay, I mean, I told you that I did a little research on medicine and science, and whether or not there was such a thing as a gay gene. Now, while science said it's not definitive. Okay. Scientists have isolated a gene called the XQ28 in gay men and women, and they say that, while they can't definitely say that this is a gay gene, they did say that everyone who is gay possesses this one gene. Just like they say that, there's a gene that makes one prone to be an alcoholic, but not everybody who has the gene becomes an alcoholic. Okay, but if you grow up in a family where people are always drinking, or if you grow up in a family where there's a lot of physical abuse, the old standard is that people who grow up and are physically abused by a parent, there's a possibility that when they become adults, they might, and I stress might, physically abuse their own children.
well, if they actually do find that there is a gay gene, the religious connotation would be tremendous, because God created all mankind. Does that means he also created the gay people, which will change, should change the church.
Well, the Pope Francis is pretty mum about these things. He's very much a modern day 21st century Pope, but he doesn't say one way or the other.
No.
Just like he says that atheists can now go to heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, how can, and then one would say, well, how can an atheist go to heaven if they don't believe in God and they don't believe in the concept of a heaven? So,
Yeah, I don't know, but the whole idea, like I said, Mark, is if God is creating a gay person, then he intended for a gay person to be on earth.
well, those are areas I'm certainly not getting into. I have no expertise or knowledge in that
There's
matter.
no expertise or knowledge. if we do find
Yeah.
that there is a gay gene, then then we assume a person is born that way. And if he's born that way, and God is in control of everybody that's being born, then God was okay
Well, it
with it.
depends what you believe in.
Well, let's see. We've got Smiley on the. Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing,
Felix
Chad?
and Mark, my friends.
How are you?
How are you, Mr. Chad?
Oh, I feel pretty good.
Yeah,
How are you guys?
Okay, how was your weekend with your uncle?
It went great. We had a great time. We study a lot of eschatology, end times prophecy, and it was fascinating.
That certainly would be interesting. End times.
Yeah. The end times. Are we soon to be there? Are we close? Are we still far away? We don't
I don't know.
Because Jesus said that we will not know the day or the hour.
No, that's true. He said only God. That's one thing he did say. He said only because people always want to know, and he said only God knows the answer to that. But Felix and I will be waving to you when you're raptured. I mean, I guess that's what's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, no. The terrifying thing is that what's coming in the tribulation, and tribulation is just is the character, okay, of what's going to happen. It's really called Jacob's trouble.
Okay, hold on. We got another
Jewish
caller
theology
in.
behind Jacob's trouble.
Let's bring another caller in. Good evening. You're on the Rebellious Reverend the Doc, and who's calling?
Hey,
Hello?
Good evening, guys. How are you?
All right.
No, we're doing fine.
Good. This is Citizen X. I'm a first-time listener to your show. I just kind of quietly tuned in to check you guys out.
Okay, well, we've got also Chad on the show right now who just called in.
How you doing, friend?
Excuse me?
He said, "How are you?"
How you doing, friend? This is Chad too.
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great.
No, it's just Citizen X, man.
Okay.
I'm a generation.
Okay.
I'm a generation nothing.
Okay.
I hear you.
Okay.
Generation, are you spiritual or not so spiritual?
I am not spiritual whatsoever.
Okay, so you would consider yourself more as an atheist?
No, to me that's a spiritual thing. I'm the kind of person I believe it's okay not to know.
Okay, so you're more agnostic.
Whatever you want to call it, I just call myself,
Well, I hate to title you anything. I want to identify what you believe. So you're agnostic when it comes to spiritual things. You're not quite sure.
But I just don't believe in anything. I believe in real life, real matters, real things.
Okay, so you're more atheistic in nature then.
Yeah. What do you think of the elections coming up?
I think it's crap. That's what I think. I think all this crap. Republicans, Democrats, everything. I think it's all a bunch of crap. I'd like to see some good old average Joe people out there running for office. But the cards are stacked against us ordinary people.
Well, that sounds like that you would be a Trump supporter because that sounds more like what he's talking about.
Yeah,
He says there's too much politicking, and besides, he loves to hear himself speak anyway.
He does, but he's a Republican, and he's sided with the party. I think if he took a more independent approach, he would have a more beneficial gain and more outreach within the general public.
Well, they say that there's always that possibility that in the future, we may gravitate toward more than the two-party system. That there may just be a third party somewhere, which would, take some people from the Republican Party, some people from the Democratic Party, to form a third party.
But
I think it's needed. You know, I think you need Republicans. I think you need Democrats. I think you need them on an international level, handling foreign affairs. I just believe here in our country, I think we just need our people handling our country. You know, with no agendas, no PACs, none of that crap.
Mm.
Well, it's rather difficult, you know, to move transportation from one state to another, or construct or fix infrastructure if you don't have a government who's going to regulate it. You know, because then you have one state arguing with another state as to who's going to pay for it. You know, bridges tend to connect states, and tunnels, okay, and if those things go bad, or if they need repair, which most of our bridges and tunnels do, you know, how's it going to be paid for?
I mean, it's going to be paid by the people of the state, you know, and on the federal level. But, you know, we're just continuing to see a slow federalization of America. I mean, right now, I don't see where we have any individuality within our states.
well, you know, we could probably use a lot less large government and give more responsibility to the states. But what happens is with that is a lot of states will go in a lot of different directions.
You know, just like people who can't agree, you got states that can't agree.
You know, you're going to have Texas going in one direction, and you know, New Hampshire on the other end going in another direction, or New York and California going in a different direction. You know, eventually, what's going to happen is that it's going to be back to the old Civil War days. You split up, you're going to have different. It's going to become nations now, not states.
Well, back before civil rights, when the Democrats in the South were proponents of segregation, you had, you know, the States' Rights Party, you know, and they were basically espousing the same thing. They were Democrats by identification, but they were segregationists and racists. They didn't want to mix the races at all. You know, George Wallace, when he stood at the gates of the University of Alabama, said segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. And then a certain number of years after that, when he decided to run for president, he started to change his tune.
You know, when you think about things, the Constitution, you know, when it was first written, it was, you know, most of the, you know, the federal government was supposed to be very small, and with the states controlling most things. But as the years pass by, we give the government more and more power and take away the rights of the states. And I think that some of those rights should go back to the states.
Well, but the Founding Fathers also, when they were talking about, you know, who should run the country, he's gone?
He's gone, yeah. All right, Chad, he's gone.
I guess we, yeah, he didn't want to hear what we had to say.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't paying too much. When you get into politics, I'm sorry. I wish I could relate to you guys when it comes to politics. I really do, because I do think it's an important topic. It's just not an interest of mine. But you know, part of the problem with politics is they're justifying goods and evils and what we should do and what we should not do, but it's not based on a godly principle. It's not based on the Bible. It's based on human wisdom. And when you're running a country where the people rule by human wisdom, really what you have is a subjective universe, just like the rest of the world is. So my role when it comes to government is I pray for them. I pray for our president. I pray that they get saved, that they truly follow in the path of true Christianity, and they run our country using godly principles, not human wisdom. I think that's where government officials get in trouble.
Well,
that guy didn't sound like he was too serious of talking anyway. It sounded like he just wanted to shoot his mouth off for a while. And
I
then,
think
he
did.
Hang up. I don't know.
I think he just wanted to hear himself speak, and when he was questioned